I am your host, Adam. Today we are going on a virtual tour of haunted Hollywood hotspots, starting with the El Capitan Theatre on Hollywood Boulevard and ending at the Hollywood Sign. Along the way, we will encounter celebrity ghosts, tragic deaths, and mysterious mansions full of secrets. Let us begin. All right, first stop, the El Capitan Theatre. This is a beautiful, grand old theater in a Spanish colonial revival style. Almost 100 years old now, opened in May 1926, and it was built as a legitimate live theater venue, not a movie house. And its stage era ran from 1926 to 1942, and in that 16 years they hosted over 120 plays, including Shakespeare and contemporary productions like Anything Goes. And it earned the distinction of being Hollywood's first home of spoken drama. And during the golden era of the 1930s, it became a major live stage competitor to Broadway, attracting prominent theatrical talent. Notable performers that you might have seen included Will Rogers, Joan Fontaine, Clark Gable before he started doing movies. In 1941, the theater hosted a preview screening of Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. And in fact, shortly after that, the place was leased to Orson Welles' Mercury Theater troupe. But this didn't last long, and the theater was shut down for a couple of months and renovated and reopened in 1942 as a cinema, as a movie house. It has remained primarily a cinema ever since, although in the mid-20th century, it did fall into disrepair like a lot of these theaters, like the New Amsterdam in New York and many of the other Times Square theaters, until the 1980s when it was purchased by the Walt Disney Company in partnership with Pacific Theaters. And they meticulously restored the theater back to its old grandeur, reopened it in 1991 with Disney's The Rocketeer. I saw Aladdin there, I think, in 1992. Might have been like late 1992 as a preview before the movie was released. It currently serves as Disney's flagship Hollywood showcase, the sort of the West Coast equivalent of the New Amsterdam Theater in Times Square. Now, is it haunted? Of course it's haunted. A theater this old, this storied, of course it's haunted. Guests often speak of feeling sudden surges of cold air inside the theater. I assume they don't mean air conditioning. Theater chairs they've seen shifting on their own. I assume they're not talking about earthquakes. And then there was the historic Wurlitzer pipe organ playing without anyone at the keys. Staff have reported hearing footsteps and mechanical sounds and the clanking of film reels long after closing. And this would be associated with its most prominent specter, the ghostly projectionist. Legend tells of a projectionist who took his own life sometime in the 1940s in the projection booth. Now, Disney, of course, downplays any alleged hauntings at this venue, but we know the truth. Okay, we're crossing Hollywood Boulevard now. Oh, by the way, to your left here is where Jimmy Kimmel Live is filmed. Watch your step, watch the traffic. And there is the world-famous Chinese Theatre, originally Grauman's Chinese Theatre, now TCL Chinese Theatre. It's instantly recognizable with its distinctive design, a 90-foot Chinese pagoda facade, red columns, stone dragon, heaven dogs at the entrance. The forecourt of the stars tradition, which is the handprints and footprints of the stars, started allegedly by accident when Norma Talmadge stepped into wet cement. This theater, perhaps the most famous theater in all of LA, opened in May 1927 with Cecil B. DeMille's King of Kings. It was built by Sid Grauman with partners Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and Howard Schenck. Is it haunted? Of course it is. Staff and tourists report footsteps in empty corridors and shadowy figures. Lore says Grauman installed hidden rooms with buzzer systems. Some say there was a speakeasy in one of these hidden rooms in the Prohibition days, and that the ghosts that they have seen appear to be angry that their speakeasy is gone. Among the ghosts haunting this location, Fritz, the stagehand, said to have hanged himself backstage. Annabelle, the child ghost, seen skipping through the hallways linked to unexplained curtain or light movements. And what theater haunting would be complete without a ghostly projectionist? Some claim a projectionist killed himself in the booth. Man, sounds like a tough job. But the most prominent haunting associated with this location, with the Chinese Theatre, is actor Victor Arthur Killian. Born 1891, he worked in vaudeville, films, and TV. He did a lot of TV. Victor Killian was on episodes of All in the Family, Mary Hartman, he was a regular on that show, did 325 episodes. He was on The Jeffersons, he was on Kojak, he was on Gunsmoke, he was on the TV series Planet of the Apes as Human. He was on The Brady Bunch. Very, very busy character actor. Well, Arthur Killian was murdered. March 11th, 1979, he was found beaten to death in his Lido Apartments residence in Hollywood, less than a mile from the Chinese Theatre. He died from multiple blunt force head injuries at age 88. There was no forced entry. It seems maybe to have been someone who had access to his home or was known to him. And to this day, the case remains unsolved. Ironically, Killian was killed a few days after Charles Wagenheim died under very similar circumstances, another actor. He too was beaten to death by someone in his apartment. The very last appearance of both of them was on the season 9 episode of All in the Family called The Return of Stephanie's Father in 1979, which aired a few days before their deaths. Now his ghost, Killian's ghost, is said to wander the forecourt, the front, where you see the handprints in front of the Chinese Theatre, pacing among the pavement slabs, often with a searching or confused expression, as if looking for his killer. Some accounts say staff or security guards have seen or sensed a shadowy figure near the theater's facade late at night or during quiet hours. And by the way, as a trivia note, the album Hotel California by the Eagles, there's a shot in the gatefold of the band and others standing in what looks like the interior of the Hotel California. That photo was in fact shot at the Lido apartment building where Victor Killian lived. Okay, moving on from the Chinese Theatre. We follow the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Some have spoken of strange energies coming from these stars. Some say they've sensed the presence of Marilyn Monroe or Bela Lugosi. The scariest thing for me, though, about these stars is how many misspellings there are. Miriam C. Cooper, the creator of King Kong, his name was misspelled on there, and it still remains misspelled to this day for nearly 100 years. Lottie Lehman misspelled, Mary Livingstone misspelled, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, her name was misspelled until it was fixed. Dick Van Dyke was misspelled. There were more. Okay, we're crossing Hollywood Boulevard again now. And did you know that in LA, jaywalking is illegal? Well, it was, at least until 2023, when they passed the Right to Walk bill and it became law. I learned that the hard way when I first moved to LA, and I crossed Ventura Boulevard somewhere in the middle, and a cop stalked me, and I was shocked, and I said, "What? You guys actually enforce that?" And he said, "Welcome to LA." Okay, so now we're coming up to the Roosevelt Hotel. Now this is a big one. Built in 1927, the Roosevelt Hotel rises like a relic from another age. Its arches and tiled floors whisper of Spanish colonial grandeur. The air inside is thick with memory. In the Blossom Ballroom, the first Academy Awards flickered to life in 1929. Upstairs, corridors stretch long and dim, lined with rooms once claimed by legends. Some say those legends never left. Now, this is one of the most haunted places in Los Angeles. You've got your standard signs of paranormal activity, including cold spots, sudden drops in temperature in certain rooms, orbs in photographs, unexplained lens flares when guests try to capture images, whispers, footsteps, shadowy movements in hallways or behind doors, especially late at night. And even hotel employees have their own stories. On forums like Reddit, some say staff avoid walking alone in certain corridors, citing knockings and crying sounds and just general unease. Just like the Chinese Theatre, this hotel has its own little girl ghost, a little girl in a blue dress, sometimes called Caroline. She's a frequent apparition reported in the upper levels or hallways. Sightings of Errol, Flynn, and Carole Lombard are among the celebrity ghosts reported.